Hey everybody, it's Tyler Esselman.
And it's Michael Osinski.
And you are listening to This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11, the podcast where we invite someone to share an album with us that they believe is perfect.
So perfect, in fact, Michael, that 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
It sure ain't.
No, still isn't. We're cooking along. Season 7's going very well. We've talked about some really incredible albums so far, haven't we?
We sure have. And I feel like this week, things are a little more chill. We're going to kind of slow the tempo down a little bit. At least that's that sort of vibe I'm getting. Not that we've been, attacking everyone with caffeinated music or anything. But
or chaos or anything like that. But
exactly.
Today's album does has a very particular kind of calmness about it. A warmth, if you will, which I think our listeners will appreciate.
Maybe we should reveal who our guest is this week. Tyler, who we talking to this week?
We are speaking to Alex ATM Mitchell. Alex ATM Mitchell works in production for animated features and film festival programming. When ATM is not watching television and films, she enjoys reading books, playing board games, building Lego sets, and going to concerts. A fine collection of hobbies, ATM, and ATM's here with us. ATM, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to This One Goes to 11. We're very pleased to have you.
I'm very excited to have a chill chat.
Yes, it's a Sunday. It's a Sunday where I got my coffee. We're good to go here. For a little bit of context as to how we met, we're both St. Louisans, which I love about you. We met through our mutual friend Max Bieber, Sweet Max.
Yes, playing D&D.
Yes. Which, it's a hobby that I have fallen off with in truth, and I need to get back to it. Yeah. Are you still playing right now? No. It takes some momentum. It takes some real dedication.
Was either of you DM or did you?
Max was, actually.
Oh, okay.
Our buddy Max. Which, one of these days we're going to have Max on. My very first friend from kindergarten. I might have told you this story, but he came up to me on the first day of kindergarten and said he liked my Small Soldiers t-shirt and asked if I wanted to be friends.
Oh,
isn't that sweet?
That's so sweet.
I know, God love him. He's the best. We have an excellent album to speak about today, and you're about to build a sterling case, I have no doubt, for this album's perfection. So, ATM, tell us, what album hath thou brought before This One Goes to 11 tribunal today?
I present to the tribunal Ego Death by the Internet.
Yes. Not to show my cards, but I do love this album.
Well, there's a whole episode left, Tyler. You're giving away the ending.
Michael, did you know this album before?
I did not. And this is sort of, kind of as I'll allude to in my little intro here, I feel like this is a piece that was missing from the puzzle of some artists that we've already covered on the podcast. It felt like this was the band that kind of cemented everything together. I have lots of thoughts about this because not to give away too much, but I love a band that you can't quite put a genre on. Yeah. And so I feel like that's something that this band succeeds at, but I don't want to say too much. We have so much more to talk about. So
for those of you who might want a little bit more of that sweet context that Michael was referring to, we have a feature that is built just for you. Michael, what's that feature called?
It's called The Beginner's Guide to the Internet's Ego Death in 60 Seconds.
Yes. And so this is going to be the first part, ATM, where you get to assess how Michael does, summing up the internet and this album in just 60 seconds before you really start to build your case. Okay?
I'm excited.
Good.
You could evaluate using whatever scale or rubric you decide. It's totally up to you.
Well, I've got 60 seconds on the clock. Are you ready, Michael?
I am. I'm doing a thing with this one. I think maybe I'll try and emphasize it a little bit, and hopefully you'll all will pick up on what I'm doing here. The listeners might not quite get it, but you both, I think, will get it.
Okay. All right. Well, we're starting in 3, 2, 1.
Something's missing, y'all. We've covered 2 artists from the Los Angeles-based alternative hip-hop music collective Odd Future on this podcast, but not the internet? Well, it's time we got things under control. In 2011, partners in crime Sydney Bennett, a.k.a. Syd the Kid, a.k.a. Syd, and Matthew Martin, a.k.a. Matt Martians, started the internet. Not Al Gore's internet, the alt R&B contemporary soul band The Internet, with Syd on vocals and songwriting and Matt on keyboard. The band name was initially a joke, but they decided to just go with it. They released a couple albums in the early 2010s and played backup to Mac Miller before releasing their masterpiece for the world, Ego Death, in 2015. Nominated for the Best Urban Contemporary Album Grammy, it featured guest appearances from Kaytranada, Tyler, the Creator, and Janelle Monáe. It also encouraged the group to get away for a bit and pursue solo projects, including Steve Lacy, who had joined the group on guitar in 2015. And don't even get us started about Syd collaborating with the Queen on a Renaissance track. That really was a special affair. They reunited to make a fourth album and opened for Gorillaz in 2018, but according to Syd, the next album they make will be their last.
Ooh.
Wow. Second to spare.
Pretty well done. All right, ATM, how did Michael do? How would you assess his job at summing up the band in this album?
Am I allowed to give the reveal of what you did? Is that cool for the listeners?
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
Please do. Yes.
Yes. I'm going to hype you up a little bit because you did one of my favorite things, which is including, I think, I was trying to keep track. I don't know if you got every single song, but you captured a lot of the song titles in your description of the band, which is it's just so amazing and just like feels like the internet. I also just love telling people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm listening to the internet, or even just asking people like, hey, do you know the internet? And they're like, what? Like the internet? And I'm like, no, like the band. That was an incredible description. That's the description that I wish I had when I was discovering the internet, because I was like, what is going on?
Well, thanks. I enjoyed saying, yeah, like I'm listening to the internet right now. It's a joke. It's like a dad joke that like, as the more and more you keep making it, like I don't know, it builds more, has more dimensions to it. Like it comes back around, you know?
Yeah, it gets cornier and cornier until it's no longer corny anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just forget.
Yeah.
And you're like, the other person is just like, what's going on? And then you're like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, yes. Yeah, the joke.
Well, ATM, thank you very much for that evaluation. Before we dive into the artist and the album a little bit further, we like to ask all our guests a much bigger question, which is, what is and what has been your relationship with music writ large?
Oh, wow. I love music. I needed to get out of bed in the morning. I'm very known for like in my car, like the car is not going to move without music playing. So I have a couple CDs in my car just in case like my Bluetooth isn't working. Like I have to have music playing. Or Tyler said in my bio, concerts this year, I'm trying to go to 24 concerts in the year 2024 on quota. So I'm probably going to make it. Music fuels the soul and just sometimes tells you more about yourself when someone's written something that you haven't been able to express, and then you hear it and then you're just like, oh wow, that's exactly how I feel.
Totally. Did you grow up with like a musical household?
Like I grew up playing piano and clarinet. My mom played the saxophone, the piano, and the organ.
Oh, cool.
And so I was always surrounded by like musical instruments. Now I no longer play an instrument. I would say that I have never played an instrument because I'm not good at it. But we are always listening to the radio. We were always listening to CDs. I remember with my dad listening to the Beatles and listening to Paul McCartney and the Wings and thinking it was new music, and it was not. And so there was it was so timeless that I was just like, didn't understand what time was.
Right.
Always been surrounded by music. Started going to concerts when I was 6.
Oh, wow. That's young.
Yeah, just continued from there.
Do you remember the venue of your first concert?
Oh, no.
No.
Someplace in St. Louis that has probably been renamed 3 times over.
Yeah, the UMB Bank Pavilion, the Hollywood Amphitheater Casino, Hollywood Casino Amphitheater, whatever it is now. I have no clue.
Yes, it's so. Every time I go back to St. Louis, usually when I go back to St. Louis, I'll maybe catch a concert. Yeah. And anytime I look at like where it is, I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, I've never heard
like,
of
oh, that
before.
used to be this. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Thanks for the address.
Do you remember what the first concert was?
I do. However, I'm not going to share. The only reason I'm not going to share it is because, that's also a common just like security question.
Oh, good.
I used to share it often, and then I was like, maybe I should stop sharing that, or maybe I should just not use that as my security question. I'll tell you the second concert I went to.
Okay, go for it. Second concert.
I'm also fairly known for people's birthdays. Like I love to buy just concert tickets and go with someone to a concert. And so I
Mm.
guess when I was like 9 or 10, I bought concert tickets, or I guess my mom bought concert tickets for me and my friend whose birthday it was to go see Hillary Duff.
Yes.
Once again, I don't know what venue in St. Louis. It's been named 3 times over. I remember going to that concert, and that was a lot of fun. I think it was like right after Metamorphosis. I like owned all the CDs. I owned a lot of CDs as a kid. Like that's what I would spend my money on.
So yesterday was Hillary Duff, right?
Yes. So yesterday, Come Clean. Yes, it was a good time.
Those were bangers. I can't believe that she didn't. I mean, who knows what happened in her life, right? And I think she's still doing. She's doing
She
stuff.
is still she's still performing and still I think doing music a little bit,
Yeah.
but more so acting.
It seems it's because she was on that like How I Met Your Father show. Is that what
Yeah.
she was? Okay, I hope she's doing okay. Whatever's going on with her, hope she's happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. You know, that's all we want for Hillary Duff here.
That's all we want.
You said you owned a lot of CDs. I mean, did you stay in one particular lane, or were you kind of all over the place in terms of your musical taste growing up?
Oh my gosh, growing up, I mean, I would listen to the CDs that my parents had. I watched a lot of TV.
Hmm.
So I had a lot of like soundtracks from TV shows and movies. So I had a Cinderella story soundtrack. I had the Freaky Friday soundtrack, which I'm so glad that because both of them are very good.
Yeah.
I also had like the Kim Possible soundtrack. Any show or like movie or whatever that I loved at that time, I was listening to Radio Disney, which who knows if that's still a thing. I don't know.
Never forget Radio Disney.
So I would like listen to music there. I'd go buy a CD. I was really into NSYNC, so I had, every NSYNC CD. And in the last like 7 years, I finally got their like Christmas CD, and I felt like my collection was complete. I was almost just like a completionist. Like any time someone would come out with something, I'm like, I have to have the next CD. So I have a lot of CDs.
We're missing that, right? We talk on this podcast a lot about like the effects of streaming on our, the positives and the negatives of that, but like the completing, like for a completist, being able to get the whole collection of them in a hard copy, that we're missing that a little bit these days, aren't we?
People will bring up artists, and I'm like, yeah, I own 3 of their CDs. Or I was talking to a friend about the Plain White T's. I was a huge Plain White T's fan for a while. Yeah. I think I own 5 CDs, and then it got to a point where I was like, this part of my life has kind of like transitioned, so I no longer feel like the need to like buy them. Yeah, for a while I was just like, oh, that's my thing. Like I have all these CDs.
This came out what did we say? 2015 was it?
2015, yeah.
Yeah, so 2015. So that's a different part of your life. What was your relationship with music kind of like post adolescence? Like how has it evolved since your childhood?
Yeah, it's evolved a lot. I will say, especially with like streaming, I could really I'm really a data person, so I could track like how it evolved. And it was interesting once Spotify started doing those Spotify like wraps, or even just like end of the year, like this is what you've been listening to. I remember being in college, and like the first year, it was a lot of like Fall Out Boy. Like Fall Out Boy had come out with a new album around that time, Save Rock and Roll, that I really loved. There was a lot of like Fall Out Boy, Plain White Tees, probably some McFly. I was really into like, some like what I still call like boy bands, but like they actually play instruments. So I guess man bands.
Right.
A lot of Michael Bublé. A lot of Michael Bublé. And then you look at like the next year in college, and you can tell that I start like inserting rap into like my music, and I started listening to Big Sean and like Drake at that time. And I mean, that was a little time after Watch the Throne, but listening to Watch the Throne a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember kind of like seeing that and being like, I don't really listen to women.
Yeah.
And that like really hit me and kind of hurt. And so the next year, like reinserting a lot of women into my like repertoire, and like I really made a conscious effort. And then like by senior year, I was like, I don't listen to a lot of Black women, like, and I just started listening to Black women kind of exclusively. Yeah. And that kind of really carried on, because I don't think I discovered Ego Deck and the internet until maybe like 2018, 2017, 2018.
Yeah. So you kind of had this sort of philosophical target that you were going for, but then what was it about this album in particular that kind of hooked you on a sonic level?
Yeah, so the way I discovered this album was streaming. Actually, I'm a huge Janelle Monáe fan, and I was just like trying to listen to all the Janelle Monáe that I could. This was before Dirty Computer, so I was like, there's no like new music from Janelle coming out, and just stumbled upon a playlist that had features of them and heard the song Gabby and was like, whoa,
Yeah.
Janelle's not in that song a lot, but I was like, but this group is so amazing. And I think at that time as well, like I was living in Austin and things were so busy work wise. I just wanted some calming music, something that like I could still groove to and like, you know, not a ballad, something fast enough that like I could still like work to it and like feel like I'm making progress, but something that like was going to calm my nervous system as I was truly entering adulthood. And so,
Yeah, totally.
and I think it was also at a time in which I was continuing to discover my sexuality. And so like it was the first time like Janelle Monáe at that point had really hinted at like being queer, but wasn't kind of outright about it yet. And so then to hear someone like Syd sing about girls, it was like, oh, okay, this feels nice because this could be about me or this could be about someone else I have feelings for. And it just felt very calming and relaxing.
It has a sexual energy, but not like an in your face sexual energy.
Yes.
Even in other sort of like R&B, like it's a lot more forward. Tracy Chapman has this effect where I kind of feel she kind of lets you come to her. Syd might have a similar thing where Syd sort of sits back and isn't pushing herself out into your face. She's like, come into the room, come hither, but not really in the most salacious way.
I totally agree. It's very alluring music.
Yeah.
It just kind of like draws you in. I think of it as like if I were to hear someone outside playing it, like I'd be like, oh, what's that? Like, what is this music you're listening to? Really calms the senses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds to me like this, and let me explain after I say this. But it feels to me like a party album, and not the sort of album that's meant to get everyone dancing or like making fools of themselves. It's like the perfect music to have on in the background, loud enough that people can hear it, but not so loud that it drowns out people's conversations. So if you want to like tune into it, you can. And it just, I don't know, I just feel if I were to walk into a party and this were the music playing, I would think, okay, these people are cool. Like, that is just the ultimate thing I would think.
I definitely agree with that. When you first said party, I'm glad you explained it because I was like, wow. But then I was like, oh, like if you think just like a casual house party, like hang out before you want people to get dancing or after people have been dancing, people are just sitting on couches chatting, people are getting to know each other. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, not raucous house party. Just like like a lot of cool people having great conversations. Like it just feels I don't know, like this sort of party. I'm the person at the party who always just sits in the corner and lets people come to them. Like this is music that could work for me in that sort of situation.
I love that because I'm definitely the same way of like sometimes I go to parties and usually going into them I'm like I don't really want to be here and I find a wall. And I usually find like one person to talk to. And it's just whoever else comes up to me and talks, like that's great because I'm probably not moving.
Kindred spirits. We are kindred spirits, ATM.
So were you familiar with Odd Future's work before you came to know this album, or did this album lead you to Odd Future? Because I think Syd's connection to Odd Future is so fascinating. I actually saw Syd perform with Odd Future at Pitchfork many years ago. It's amazing how her energy fits in with the chaos of Odd Future. So what's your take on that connection?
I'll be honest, I think at this point I still have never heard Odd Future. I probably have like on the sidelines, but I remember kind of like starting to listen to the internet and be like, where did they come from? And then seeing Odd Future pop up in like the stuff that I was reading and being like, what in the world. Because what I remember of Odd Future is that they're banned from a country in like Europe, just being so explosive and being so crazy.
Right.
I remember kind of like hearing about that when that happened and being like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with these kids. And
Yeah.
that's probably not the music I need to listen to. Hear the internet. And this was also around the same time as Flower Boy from Tyler the Creator, at least that I was listening to it, understanding his connection to it as well, and just being like, they really changed up, it seems.
Yeah.
In like, at least a good way for me. Yeah, I was very surprised.
Yeah, because they're so brash. They're like, say what you will about kind of like the I guess the underlying ethos of Odd Future, but they're tonally so different from the internet. And I love the idea that on an artistic level, Syd sort of finds value in that as well, just by association. So it's sort of like, as I create my mind tapestry of Syd and what seems to interest her on an artistic level, it's cool that she can kind of exist in both tones, I guess.
Yeah.
It makes me admire her, I guess, to a greater extent even.
Yeah, I think it's also just like an interesting aspect of branding. I think there are a lot of artists who want to do a whole lot of different sounds and maybe are not as accepted because they're like, people are just like, oh no, this is what you do. But being able to kind of like reform and rebrand and truly rebrand as the internet or as Syd outside of Odd Future is just like incredible. Because I think if I had gone into the internet being like, oh, this is the music from people from Odd Future, I probably would have been scared and leaned away from it. I didn't know about them, and I found them through Janelle Monáe, and then kind of took that like backdoor like discovery of like, oh wait, I have heard of these people before.
Yeah.
But now I'm coming in and I have a different appreciation and understanding of them.
In some ways, it sort of feels like she's organizing the chaos of Odd Future. Like, because there's still some chaos on this album in the sense, but it's like sophisticated chaos. Because I think like, not to get like nerdy here, but the little I know about music theory, the chord progressions throughout this are just they come out of left field. And even like, what was the one song I was just listening to right before we started recording? Towards the end, was some Penthouse. What's it called?
Penthouse Cloud.
Penthouse Cloud, yeah. And that one, like, midway through the song, it just totally changes into a different thing. And I think that, maybe that's kind of the energy that like she had with Odd Future, that now she's sort of like, okay, you all go be crazy over there. I'm gonna hold it down over here.
I think that's another thing I loved about the album. And I've like heard other songs that have like two parts in one, or songs that are long, but this one, all the songs on this album, it just felt like it meshed together really well, that you could really just keep playing it and it did still feel like the same album, even if the chord progression or like the tempo switched up, or even just like the intentionality of the song, it just feels good from front to back.
Well, we should hear some of their music here. What song have you chosen as your standout track from the album?
Ooh, really difficult choice, but I guess I'm going to go with the classic Girl featuring Kaytranada.
All right. Well, let's give it a little listen, and then we'll say more on the other side.